Hello, my little Luxes. Welcome back to another Luxy Charms, and I'm your host, Charcy Lux. I'm getting better at just saying Charcy Lux instead of cosplayer, but at the end of the day, I am Charcy Lux, and hello, welcome if you are brand new to my channel, and welcome back if you are returning. And one of those things, just as a friendly reminder, if you're brand new here and you enjoy anything that is a part of the horror genre, please subscribe, come join the Luxy family. And if you're returning, please make sure that you are still subscribed because you know the drill. Unfortunately, YouTube does this thing that every time I post a video, it will randomly select people and just unsubscribe them, even though they clearly didn't do it themselves. But anyway, back on topic, I am excited to continue my series where I am talking about the Critters franchise, not to be confused with the Masters of Horror, because I'm also talking about that as well. It's kind of nice going back and forth between the different franchises. Granted, Critters is going to be done long before I am finished with going through all the episodes for Masters of Horror, but today I'm going to be discussing Critters 3. So I just want to jump right into it. So let's start with the typical spoiler alert. If you don't like any kind of spoilers, please be forewarned. That is what is going to happen on my review. And also, viewer discretion is advised.
See? Rover's Bend, 1986. Even local law enforcement claims they've seen space aliens.
I am excited to talk about the third film of the Critters franchise. And this one revolves around Clifford and his two children, Annie and Johnny. They had just taken a family vacation and were heading back home. And wouldn't you know it, that they are just outside of Grover's Bend when all of a sudden Clifford's truck gets a flat tire. They have to stop. Clifford has to fix the flat tire. But it just so happens they're in this kind of like rest stop area. So Annie and Johnny decide to go play with their frisbee while their dad is fixing the flat tire. Well, they happen to meet Josh, which is funny. It is the debut film for Leonardo DiCaprio. So you get to see a really, really young Leonardo in this film. Although sadly, he kind of says he hates this film now, that most of his earlier films, and he says this one blatantly, that it was one of those things where at a young age you would just make movies to get attention. At least that's kind of how he put it. So it's another one of those where it makes me sad that these actors, when they make it big, that they decide to disown the horror genre, and unfortunately he was one of them. So he befriends Annie and Johnny. Well, they're throwing around the frisbee, and it just so happens to launch into the woods. Well, while they're trying to collect this frisbee back, wouldn't you know it, a bounty hunter, Charlie, comes popping out of one of his booby traps. And he warns the kids, hey, this place is dangerous. You shouldn't be here. You need to leave. And he warns them of the critters, or the Krites, as we rightfully know them, correctly, I should say. So Charlie gives Johnny a gift, which is a small crystal, and he tells him that if the crystal ever glows green, to know that danger is among you, or you are about to come into trouble. So basically, it was a warning system in case the Krites ever showed up. Shortly after that is when Clifford finally gets the tire fix, calls to his kids, and they start heading back home.
Rover's Bend. What a crock.
And in doing so, they have to drive right past Grover's Bend. And of course, we know how important Grover's Bend is to the Critters franchise, or at least we should anyway. And they live in the city of Los Angeles in a rundown apartment building. But when they get back home, you find out two really important things. One, some Krites had hitched a ride on Clifford's truck, and in doing so, they managed to break into the apartment building. And two, you find out that this apartment complex is owned by none other than Josh's stepdad.
Discipline from now on, young man. I will not, and your mother will not, spare any more rods.
Who's not a nice person at all, but he has hired this maintenance guy by the name of Frank to basically cause lots of problems with this building. He wanted him to terrorize the tenants with rats and just electrical problems and any other kind of disgusting, grotesque thing you can think of, because he was trying to do these scare tactics to make the tenants leave. And in their way of saying, leaving by their choice, because he wanted to sell the building and turn it into a mall. And instead of doing the fair thing and paying the tenants to relocate, he didn't want to give them money. So he was trying to scare them all out of the building. So already we kind of have a person that is the villain antagonist type of idea, but obviously the Krites are the rightful villain of the movie. But we still have to have that crummy human that nobody likes as well. It's just the way when it comes to horror comedies, because that's exactly what Critters 3 is. And I mean, we should know this by now. All the Krites are a type of horror comedy. It's not in the same sense as being like Shaun of the Dead or Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, where you can clearly tell it's a comedy. This is along the same subgenre, but it's still very entertaining and funny. It's very similar to Gremlins, which, funny thing to note, and I will also be putting a link to Raw from Reanimator. I'm going to put a couple of her videos down below because she gives some fantastic insight on her coffee chats about Critters and the Chiodo brothers, and there's a specific reason why I'm bringing them up. She brings up in her videos as well about the whole idea and the subject of the relation of horror and comedy that is brought into these videos. But one of the facts that she brings up in her video, Critters was actually written before Gremlins was. Gremlins just happened to come out a little bit quicker. So it's interesting that we're always comparing those films together, especially for certain silly scenes that you're seeing of the Krites when they're doing their little episodes or charades. That is very similar to when we think about the Gremlins when they're in their bar scene type of idea. So it's interesting to note and know that Critters technically was written before Gremlins had even come into flourishing. I think that's the correct term. We'll find out. I will have it underneath if it's the wrong one. But, of course, back on track again, we find out that Josh's stepdad is this really nasty person that, well, he's scum. It's probably the easiest way we can put it. Now that the Krites have entered into the picture, and they're attacking anybody that they come in contact with. One of the first people they encounter in the building happens to be Frank, and he rightfully gets eaten by the Krites, so I mean, we're not going to shed a tear for Mr. Frank. Even though, in the words of Annie, he's such a snazzy dresser.
Guy's a waste of protein.
Yeah, but what a snappy dresser.
Now that the Krites are attacking everybody in this apartment building, and the remaining few that are still living there all start banding together and start fighting back against the evil little critters, until they are literally pushed all the way up onto the roof, trying to find a way to escape. And it just so happens that they had made a phone call out to Charlie, and he makes it there in time to help them. And now, with his help, they are able to fend off and kill the last of the Krites. Plus, they were also able to call out for help. Not that anybody would ever believe them, that these little alien creatures were there infesting the building, because wouldn't you know it, the building also burned down, along with all the evidence. Plus, there's an extra short that is a part of the end credits that will lead you into knowing what is to come for the fourth Critters film. Because it just so happened Critters 3 and Critters 4 were simultaneously filmed together from February 1991 until July 1991.
Hey! We got him!
And with this one having an excellent, fun cast, and also for the fact of the excellent critter kills, because there's only 2 people who are killed in this film, but there are a ton of Krites who are killed off. This is an excellent addition to the Critters franchise. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this film, but surprise, I love and enjoy all of the Critters films. Now, the whole point of me going through, talking, and giving quick, well, in my words, a quick movie review about the Critter films is because on the final episode for this series, I'm going to be ranking all the films. Now, it's basically going to be me saying which one's my favorite to least favorite, but I love and enjoy all of these films. They all have a nostalgic piece to me that is special to me, and they're all comfort films. This, besides Tremors, is probably the one horror franchise that I have seen the most. And I've mentioned before that it's interesting that when I was a kid, the Krites scared the crap out of me, and that now as an adult, I love the films and they're comfort films for me. But I wanted to keep this one quick, simple, just kind of going over the film and talking about what is the general plot line for it, talking about how much I enjoy it, that I love that it's a horror comedy, and I had brought them up before, so now we're really going to talk about it. But the writers for this one were the Chiodo brothers, and we know and love and adore them for the fact that they came out with Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I've talked about them before on my channel. But also the fact that in Critters 1 and 2, they were the special effects crew, and they created the Krites. They were the puppeteers and everything. So it was extra special for this one that they were the writers, so they were more involved. And you can see that fun spin on it and everything, because when you think of Killer Clowns in Outer Space, and then you think of how the Krites were in this one, there's a fun element to it where it feels like, well, clownish in a way. And if you have a joy and love for the Three Stooges, think of those silly kind of antics and then mix it with horror. It's one of those things where a lot of people think that this one is cheesy and goofy, but you know what? I love that. There's not a single horror movie that is like this that I don't love and enjoy. Now, I will touch base more on extras and trivia facts, more in my shorts and everything. I might touch base on some more when I'm on the final episode, when I'm talking about my ranking about everything. And it's easy for me to basically keep you on your toes about what my ranking is when I literally just say, well, I love them all. But you're going to find out which ones are my top favorites. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me here on another Luxy Charms, and let me know what do you think of Critters 3 and everything. Like I said, there's so many mixed reviews on this one. People either love it or hate it. It's very few in between when it comes to this one. But like I said, I'm excited to jump into, well, I'm excited to talk about all of them. What am I talking about? But the fact that we're going to go into 4 pretty quickly, and the fact that they were filmed together makes a lot of sense, and they reflect off of each other pretty well, even though the 4th one is supposed to take place in the future. But spoilers. But anyway, if you would like to follow me on my other social medias, there will be a link in the description down below, including a link to my Etsy where I sell my art, and to my Patreon, and I would love for you to come and become a member on there. Your help joining my tiers really helps support me so that I can keep creating more content, creating more art, more cosplays that are coming in the future. And since Halloween is coming soon, I'm going to be jumping back into getting into costumes and getting into makeup looks. I am still enjoying just being relaxed and being myself on here. And on the screen, you will see a shout out to my fellow Patreon members. And thank you so much for joining me on there, where you get to see special exclusive content that nobody else will see, including special vlogs and a special shout out to my Ultimate Lux. So thank you, Kurt, for joining me on there. And now come join me in the afterlife, or I am the afterlife of the party, but please come join me. You know the drill. And always remember to slay, subscribe, like, and always be yourself. And till next time, until I can't talk anymore. Until next time, my little Luxes, I'm a little warm today and I'm a little out of sorts. It's been a long week. I was helping my brother and sister-in-law with their move over the weekend, and I haven't recovered yet, so plus I had therapy, and then I also had an adjustment, so I'm a little beat up in mind and body. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me here on Thank you so much for joining me here, and have a Luxy Charms kind of day. Bye!